All right, everyone. Steve Metrics here with your boy.
DJ TRIGGS.
And together we are Db8 Sports. And how about that, DJ Triggs? Week 10 had a crazy amount of close matchups. Way more than I thought. Some of the games went my way. Some of the games definitely went your way. But how about that? Pretty wild week 10.
Yeah. Like I was sitting there and I started thinking about this a lot more recently. Like
Yeah.
there are really bad football teams and there's not very many good football teams.
Very true. Very true. It's a very short list. And even looking at the wonkiness that the San Francisco 49ers had over the last few weeks, you could tell the moment they made those trades for Montez Sweat and Chase Young that they were going to ride the ship. They were going to figure it out, and they are A-OK. Not a single moment really over the last 3 weeks when they were losing did any of their odds for winning their division change. So that speaks volumes.
Right. I totally agree. Like, I don't know. It's just weird to watch. There were so many bad games. Like, yeah, there was some close games, but there was a lot of bad football. A lot of bad football.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of bad football going on over the weekend, but still having games be so close is pretty wild. I mean, the New York Giants are clearly not a good football team anymore. They are absolutely depleted at quarterback. Just the whole gutting of the offense of Darren Waller, no Saquon Barkley. It's really messing up with the chemistry of that team. So it's pretty tough, but I feel like there's a lot of stuff going on in the AFC. I feel like that's a conference it's very odd that everything is so one-sided now to just the AFC, that some of these teams that are coming up that are kind of doing okay and doing kind of good, it's like you're still probably not getting into the playoffs because the entire AFC North is dominating that entire half of that playoff.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, Cincinnati made after looking at Cincinnati's like schedule, like Cincinnati might not actually make the playoffs. Then like Pittsburgh might actually make the playoffs. Then like Tampa Bay looks like they're gonna win the South now, and New Orleans might not have a quarterback. But then Jameis Winston comes out and dominates, and then
Exactly.
like Arizona's back in the mix. Apparently, they don't want the number one pick. I'm like, I have no idea. Like the Chargers were a bad football team at one point, and now they're okay. And then Detroit went 41 on them and gave up 38. And Seattle and Washington battled out, but we thought Seattle could be a playoff team at the beginning of the year. And then Washington gave away all their pieces, and they still take a playoff team to the wire. Like,
oh yeah.
I mean, Vegas could be a playoff team at this point, and they barely beat the Jets.
Right.
Carolina and Chicago, that was close. That was horrible. Yep. Indianapolis, Indy could be a playoff team right now, and they're horrible. And like they struggled to beat the Patriots, and it's like I just don't know. Like football is hard. Okay,
it really is, man. It really is hard. But some of these teams like New England and Washington, I feel like those are two teams that, regardless of that record, those teams are hard to play against. I don't know why. It's just been historical for those teams. And even though New England lately, which has really no momentum at all on offense, they still have a tough defense. They're still hard to play against. And at times, Mac Jones gets it going, even though he gets benched. But at times, that offense can click. And they are showing signs that they can click. And even looking at what happened last year in Dallas, it still feels weird seeing Ezekiel Elliott with the Patriots, because I'm a Tony Pollard owner, and I can tell you, I'm seeing Ezekiel Elliott run on New England. He looks almost a better runner than Tony Pollard.
Because
And
he is, yeah.
not at between him and Ramondre Stevenson, Ezekiel Elliott's the best of those three, and that's pretty wild. That is really wild stuff. So I'm pretty flabbergasted on that. But then the other thing that you're pointing out about Indianapolis, I feel like we're going to be moving in a direction where, yes, the AFC North is going to be probably the best division in football, at least this season. But I do think all of a sudden, I think the AFC South is starting to gain serious momentum, that division is rising. And that could be an entire 4-team division to really look out for moving forward.
But that's the problem. Like, so we thought Tennessee was going to, like, blow up, and literally they didn't blow up, and they're bad. They're really bad. Like, Derrick Henry, is he washed now? I have no idea. Like, he's not fantasy relevant at all right now. Like, at all.
Yeah. I mean, I do think all of a sudden now they are running into back-to-back tougher matchups going up against really good defenses. So I think that plays into it. Their offensive line in Tennessee is rough. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know about Derrick Henry. Like, it's pretty weird. Like, I do think he is definitely on a downward trajectory since breaking his foot about a year or two ago. And that is definitely happening. But still, having that ability to put a downhill runner in the backfield alongside Tajay Spears with that offense that they have of D-Hop, Nick Westbrook, Akine, and I think the thing that hurts them now is I think Treylon Burks is out. They needed that guy. They needed him. So not having him hurts, but it is what they have. And I do like Tajay Spears quite a bit. I like when him and Henry are out there in a pony formation. But it's a little bit rough. It's really rough when they don't have that protection. Because I feel if they have that protection, that Will Levis cannon is going to absolutely unload.
Okay, let me give you the top 10 running backs in the NFL right now. All right. Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Travis Etienne, Zach Moss, DeAndre Swift, Bijan Robinson, Raheem Mostert, Kenneth Walker, Saquon Barkley. Now here's the real question. How many of those guys average over 70 yards a game?
I think it's probably maybe a third of that list.
Nope. 2.
2?
2. Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley both average about 80 yards a game. Everybody else is under 70.
Yeah.
And it gets worse. It literally gets worse. Like 11 through 17 is under 60 a game.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, it really feels like this year it's tough at running back, man. It is so hard. And I mean, I'm starting to see the dividends on Jonathan Taylor now, but I mean, I went through pretty much the first, 4 weeks of my season with 0 running backs on my team. And even now, I'm still struggling to try to get 2 into my lineup. I didn't think it would be this difficult. I know last season I had even fewer running backs and I was more successful.
And, I mean, 10 teams in the NFL, 10 defenses, give up less than 100 yards a game. So, like, Is it the defenses being great, or is it the running backs just not being good? I don't know.
So I have definitely heard going into this season that defenses were significantly catching up to offenses, and it showed. It has certainly showed this season. Offense, just in general, isn't getting there. And even last season, you did have more dominance in the run game, but that dominance in the run game has completely petered out. I mean, look at how many points the Dallas Cowboys are putting up this season. Yet the Dallas Cowboys have almost 0 run production. It's crazy.
Yeah. I don't know. I have a problem with the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, they're putting up so it's kind of like Miami and Dallas are the same team. Like, they're the top 2 scoring offenses in the NFL, but like they beat up the really bad teams, putting like 40 plus on them. And then when they play good teams, they get spanked. So
yes,
I just don't like that's why I'm so confused with football right now. Like running backs don't matter. The top quarterbacks in the NFL are guys that nobody would have ever picked in their entire life. Like
right.
let me break it down for a second. Like Sam Howell and CJ Stroud lead the NFL in yards.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And I mean, I'll be honest, when it came to us in our league, I mean, I did talk up CJ Stroud before the season. I was kind of shocked that he did go undrafted. I didn't go with him because I had more belief in Kenny Pickett. I think we're seeing more the culmination of not necessarily Matt Canada not really running that offense well, but the accumulation of tough defenses that they're going up against in the AFC. So I think that's playing a part into this. But still, I was shocked that CJ Stroud went nearly undrafted in almost every single draft. I think he was at least a guy who definitely at least deserved a QB2 status to the level of Kenny Pickett.
Well, we were both big on CJ Stroud coming out of the draft. Like neither one of us had Bryce Young above him. And
no way.
Like, don't get me wrong. I mean, I was big on him, but like there was no way I was going to draft him. I mean, I got like pretty good quarterbacks pretty late.
Right.
But like there's no way anyone saw him and Sam Howell being the two top throwers in the NFL.
Yeah.
And like Howell is throwing 67% right now. Like
beautiful.
That's insane.
That's money. Yep.
And Stroud's throwing 291 and has a 7-to-1 interception to touchdown ratio.
Yeah. And I can tell you the one, it's insane. 7-to-1 is a phenomenal ratio. And the one that he threw yesterday, it was very uncharacteristic. Even between the one that he threw and the one that I saw Joe Burrow throw in the red zone, it was very bizarre because they basically threw it to a guy they were looking straight at in the eyes. So I don't get where that was coming from. But just looking at CJ Stroud when he plays, this was the first game where I really, really watched a Texans game just totally from start to finish. And that guy looks downfield all the time. It's crazy. He looks downfield. It's fast. It's incredible. And I think he not only can do what he's doing with Rookie of the Year, but if he stays on this pace, hopefully health is good luck for him and things stay well. This guy, to me, I think there's 4 people who are up there for MVP. And I think one of them he already has beat. I know Dak Prescott's going to be up there. If he keeps throwing for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, that's undeniable. That's going to put him up there. But I do think right now Stroud is definitely better than Prescott. I think Jalen Hurts is up there as well. And then the other guy who I think is up there, who you and I have both been high on, but is not a quarterback, is Christian McCaffrey.
Oh, okay. I would definitely put Lamar Jackson up there too.
Not after yesterday.
I was gonna say I know yesterday was bad, but the rest of his season has been pretty top notch.
But he's thrown 10 touchdowns in 10 weeks?
Yeah, but I can't remember exactly. Let me look it up.
That's not going to be MVP, Triggs.
He's got 10 touchdowns, but then he's got let me check here. Oh, of course, it's not going to give me stats.
Oh, no.
It's cheating my eyes.
Uh-oh.
He has 5 rushing touchdowns and 500 plus, or about 500 yards on the ground. So, like, he can probably double that. I mean, he's got 7 more games to see what he can do. But, like,
20?
And then he'll probably have like close to 1,000 yards rushing. So that could be, because I mean, even when he won the MVP, he had about 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns on the ground. So like, it's not like he blew up then either. So, and then he's only had one season where he had over 25 touchdowns. So it's not out of the realm of possibilities if Baltimore is a top team. Which, I mean, standings wise, they're pretty close.
They're close.
They're
still
a half
think
game out.
Right. I think we're going to have to see more of a Lamar of old. It still seems right now something is still clunky with him. I mean, there are times I see him throw and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is awesome. But then the last few weeks that I've seen him play, not the Detroit game, but even that game, his stat line isn't crazy mind-blowing. It just feels like it's not there. And I don't get it. The Odell Beckham slant route was phenomenal. I love what he did with that. And to me, I feel like if he's going to get MVP, it's going to also be coinciding with Zay Flowers getting more involved. I just feel like it's either OBJ a little bit, it's Mark Andrews here, and it's a lot of that running game. That is how they win, and they win on the back of that defense as well. That's their recipe for success in Baltimore.
Yeah. And the voters, like, they normally pick the best player on the best team, and
like a Heisman.
Yeah, and Lamar, I mean, Baltimore is only a half game behind Kansas City for the number 1 spot. So, like,
yep,
if they pass Kansas City, which they have a pretty good shot at doing, like, he'll probably just get it off of that.
What is, so if it comes to that, and we're kind of bringing everything into accumulation in terms of fantasy for quarterbacks in points averaged per week, where does he rank?
Ooh, that's a good question. Let's check.
Because our boy CJ Stroud, I want to say is 2. Like,
he's
literally,
nuts. Yeah,
he 2. And that's why I feel not only can he win, well, to begin with, I've been at the casino a little bit the last few weeks. There isn't even a offensive rookie of the year category to pick from. It's over. It's him. At this point, if something were to happen to him, then they might open it up again. But hopefully everything stays good with his health, because at this point, that category doesn't even exist anymore. That's how dominant he is for Rookie of the Year.
Okay, so CJ Stroud has moved down to 5th average-wise because Prescott's big game, he moved up.
Yep.
And then Lamar is 9th, but overall, Lamar is 4th and Stroud is 7th.
In terms of average per game?
No, for position rank. For total points.
Okay. Right. Yeah, I like to go off average per game because we got a lot of hit and miss bye weeks on all these teams.
Average Stroud is 5th and Lamar is 9th.
Gotcha. And then who are the 4 ahead of Stroud?
It's literally by 1 point, though. Like, the difference is 1 point.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, so they're all tight. They're all up there then. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it definitely seems like – go ahead.
If we go off of that, though, Josh Allen is number 1 by, like, a wide margin.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too, where I look at this Heisman comparison, like you said, and I feel that way, too. Then Buffalo definitely and Josh Allen ain't happening. And we'll see what happens tonight, but I think this game's going to be tight tonight. I don't think this is a runaway for Buffalo. I know it's at home. I know they've had a good amount of home nightcap games lately, but something with Buffalo is definitely off. This team is incredibly one-dimensional. There's definitely more Dalton Kincaid coming into the offense, but there is a lot of one-dimensionality with this team, and they don't feel like they're that juggernaut that they used to be. And definitely right now, they wouldn't even be in the playoffs.
Yeah, Buffalo would be 9th right now. And the problem with Buffalo, though, is, like, if you look at the way let's just go off the AFC East, right? The Jets brought in Aaron Rodgers and a bunch of they brought in Dalvin Cook and a bunch of wide receivers, right?
Yep.
Why am I blanking? Miami brought in like wide receivers galore with like Chase Claypool and all this nonsense. Running back, they have like 20 running backs. Their defense got better.
They all run 4-3.
That's true. They all run 4-3. Literally, the only team in that division that got bad was New England, and Buffalo stayed the same.
Yep. Yeah. Not much change there with Buffalo, and that is definitely why I've been feeling that they definitely are taking a step back. And I think you pointed out really well that if the New York Jets and Aaron Rodgers were healthy, this team would easily be better than I think they're 4-5. They would at least be a 5-4 team moving forward, if not better than that, considering how many tight games they've played in. And I feel like that Aaron Rodgers factor that was the EPA or something like that for points that a player is associated with, he would definitely bring that over. And I think they would win games by a much better margin than they've been playing lately. So, and you can just feel it. And I could feel it last night with the Raider game that the Jets are a tough team. They're a tough team to play against. Their defense is tough, and Breece Hall is tough, and Garrett Wilson's a great receiver. And you can feel that they're clearly missing something at quarterback, wide receiver 2, and tight end. If they can figure that out, I really don't know how you can beat that team, because they're really almost locking down every position. A little bit of the offensive line too. There's work there.
Think about it this way. So they are number 6 in points allowed. They only allowed 19 points. They are 30th in points offensively. They put up 16. So if Aaron Rodgers couldn't make up 4 points a game, that's insane.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's about what it feels like. If they have just an extra touchdown for some of these games, they get the W's. And even last night, a field goal. Yeah, a field goal, maybe 2 field goals. That's pretty much all it takes. And it just felt like last night, I mean, if Zach Wilson would have scored that touchdown instead of stepping out of bounds, I'd say about halfway through the game, that would have, to me, I think that would have done it, because it felt like whoever scored the first touchdown would significantly move themselves ahead, and they have to take more risks on offense.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, bad teams figure out a way to lose, and Zach Wilson is bad. He figures out a way to lose. I know, he stepped out at the 3, and that's hit or miss or whatever, but that doesn't happen to good players. It just doesn't. I don't know if it's karma or what it is, but good players, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, something with that, you definitely start to have a little more athleticism, a little more mindfulness of where to step. Saturday, I was watching the Michigan Penn State game, and I kind of noticed the same thing with the Michigan quarterback. And I don't know if he's eligible for this upcoming draft, but that is something that I would definitely put a red flag on moving forward for that guy's NFL career. And again, too, in college, you have basically a minimum of 3 seconds before you have to think about throwing the ball. In the NFL, you have a maximum of maybe 2.5 seconds to throw the ball. And with this Michigan guy, I see him scramble. This is literally, I think, a 4th and 1 play. And he scrambles outside the pocket. And as he's outside the pocket, he really just has to move 1 yard up. And instead, he keeps rolling out for 10 more yards. And eventually he rolls out and he gets that yard by getting all the way to the sideline. But when you see stuff like that, to me, it reminded me exactly of the Zach Wilson play that we saw on Sunday.
Right. And the funny part to me is when you look at stuff like that, I just was curious about I know we're going to get to the Packer game at some point, but the Jets margin of loss is 3 points. The Packers give up 20 points a game and they score 19 points a game. And it's that small of a margin of wins and losses.
Yes. And I think I've seen from the NFL commercial with Kurt Warner, I think it's about 25% of all games is determined by about 3 points or less. And what you had in with the Jets is their defense is on the field so long because their offense is very inept that a lot of I want to say one of the last times I looked at time of possession, the Jets had the least amount of time of possession on offense, and this is why.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yep.
That is simply crazy.
It is, and that's why if the Jets could really just have a slightly better offense, not even a better offense, but a slightly better offense, their record would be better than 4-5, and they would probably be in the playoffs. I mean, just look at the slight changes that Cincinnati has had by getting Joe Burrow healthy, and then boom, they're immediately back in the mix and sweep the NFC West. So those little things can come back and pay dividends. I think the team that's making a real big success on that right now is Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah, I know.
It hurts.
Let's not hurt my feelings any more than we have to.
I know. Exactly. But yeah, the thing that I definitely I mean, I haven't watched too much Pittsburgh lately. For my fantasy team, I used to have Kenny Pickett, but I had to let go of that when he got hurt. But the thing I've seen over the last 2 weeks is that Jaylen Warren is running angry. He is a real angry looking runner.
Oh, speaking of time of possession, I was able to look it up.
Yeah.
The Jets and the Packers both have the ball offensively. They're ranked 25th and 26th in time of possession.
So about 27, 28 minutes?
28 minutes, exactly.
There you go. There it is. That's no debate.
Yeah, that's horrible. Both of those defenses are pretty solid. Giving up only 16 and 19 points a game, but you can't score 20 points a game. It's so bad.
It is, man. It is. And, it's pretty rough.
There's nothing you can do about that. 90% of the teams in the league are scoring more than 20 points a game. So when you can't do that, you're kind of just chalking it up as a loss before the game starts.
Yeah, it shows, and for up until the last 2 weeks of the season being a Raider, that we've basically averaged 16 points a game. I don't even know if any of those games we scored above 20. So yeah, if you can't score above 20, you're not getting there. You're not going to win.
Yeah, I mean the teams that aren't scoring above 20, the Giants, New England, Carolina, the Jets, Pittsburgh, Las Vegas, the Packers. These are all technically really, really bad teams.
Yeah, but Pittsburgh's in the playoffs, man. That is a team that finds to win gritty games. And I don't know about you, but I've always had Mike Tomlin now in the top 3 of my head coach rankings in the entire NFL for, gosh, I don't even know how long, probably at least since 13 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, he's a pretty darn good coach. Yeah, I guess he would definitely be top 5 for sure. I don't know. After watching them play against the Packers and seeing a couple of the games the last couple of weeks, they're not good. They're horrible. Their pass game was so again, another game where they literally got outgained is the word I'm looking for, yardage wise. Yeah. And I'm looking to see who they beat. And again, they're another one of those teams that just beat the bad teams and their record looks good. They beat Green Bay, Tennessee, the Rams. Now they did get a good win against the Ravens and the Cleveland Browns, so I'll give them that. But they got smoked by San Francisco. They got
Yeah.
smoked by Houston. They got
Yep.
smoked by Jacksonville. Like,
Yep.
I don't know.
That's not
I don't
good.
understand the NFL. Like, how do you beat two of the best teams in the NFL, but you can't beat the bad ones?
Right. And I think, we're basically halfway through the season. So there's going to be a regression to the mean. And we have 7 weeks to make that happen. And in the AFC, it's definitely going to happen. And not only that, Steelers are in the AFC North. I think it's going to happen. I think at least one, if not two of those teams end up falling out of playoff contention.
I think it's going to be the Bengals and Pittsburgh. Like,
sure.
As much as people want to get on the Bengals bandwagon because it's the cool thing to do, like I was looking at their schedule and
it's the hardest in the NFL.
Yeah, and they give up the third most yards. Like their defense is horrible.
Oh yeah, and the recipe to success about them, and we did a deep dive on this a while back, is to run through them, and as long as they're not ahead of you in points, they can't win. But that is ironic because their secondary, I think, is pretty good. But then again, they lost. I think they lost Trey Hendrickson. He's one of their corner pieces on defense. He got banged up at the end of that game. So yeah, losing him is a major blow to that defense.
Yeah, they're the third worst rush defense in the NFL.
Yep.
But here, listen to the schedule for the Bengals. The Ravens are next. Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, Indy, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Kansas City, Cleveland. Like, they literally could lose all of those games.
But those you just listed, I think they could win those next four. Ironically.
No gimmies, though.
There are no gimmies, and even in today's NFL, especially if you play in the AFC, there's definitely no gimmies. But I mean, you just rattled that off. Baltimore, I think they can win. Indianapolis, they can win. Who else was in that group of the first four games?
It's at
Pittsburgh,
Baltimore, though. At Baltimore.
Yeah, it's at Baltimore. Cleveland just went there and took care of business.
Wait a minute. No, they didn't. No. Did you watch that game? I watched that game.
I was watching in and out. I was definitely watching my Bengals Texans game first.
They were getting smoked. Like, I stopped watching because they were up by like 20. Like, Baltimore was up by like 20. Then all of a sudden the game,
they lost
I came back and I was like, wait a minute. Did I miss something?
Yep.
And then I had to jump back in. But like, yeah, no. Cleveland didn't just own them. They I don't know what happened. There was some sort of miraculous nonsense.
Yeah. I mean, both Deshaun Watson and Lamar Jackson, they both threw pick sixes. And that really was a problem in that game. So, yeah, that's what's going on there. And shout out to our guy, Greg, for pointing out what's going on with the Buffalo game. And, yeah, I mean, it's kind of what we were thinking of, having Denver kind of playing Buffalo a little tough. So it's kind of interesting seeing that going on. It's 3-0. You got some turnovers from Buffalo. So we'll see what happens. And there you go. There is a interception. So yeah, it's interesting there. But yeah, I mean the thing with Cleveland, and I noticed Newsome was the one who had that pick six return to the house. That is what kind of brought them in. And I think too, the beginning of the game, Cleveland dug themselves a hole from the Deshaun Watson pick six to Baltimore scoring early. They were 14-0 immediately in that game. So they absolutely dug themselves out of that hole, and it comes on the forefront of having that phenomenal defense that they have, and having Deshaun Watson playing more like his Deshaun Watson himself.
Yeah, that's why I don't think Cincinnati can just like go in there and beat those teams. Like, yeah, they may be able to get past the Minnesota, but the way Josh Dobbs is playing, like, he might be I almost said an MVP candidate and made myself laugh.
I know. I'll tell you this, though. Minnesota is not a team. I mean, I think Cincinnati could beat Pittsburgh, Indy, and Baltimore. I do think Minnesota is a problem, is a very tough team to play against. I think Minnesota makes a playoff regardless of which conference they were in, whether it's the AFC or the NFC. But, I mean, for my Raiders schedule, I mean, I'm looking at the next 3 games that we have coming up. honestly, the Minnesota game is the one that gives me the most concern. And yeah, we have Miami and Kansas City before them, but there's something about Minnesota right now which is just terrifying that they can just beat you with anyone. They can beat you with substitute wide receivers. They can beat you with a backup quarterback. They have multiple different running backs that are coming in that aren't Alexander Madison that are getting the job done. Their defense keeps getting better. Minnesota to me is one of those very scary looking teams right now. I definitely put Minnesota in the top 10. The way they're doing things now is incredibly impressive.
Yeah, I mean, they're a playoff team if it started right now. So,
Oh yeah, I mean they still have a shot to win the North. I know Detroit's 7-2, but Minnesota's got a favorable schedule as well.
Minnesota's won 5 in a row. They have the longest win
Jeez.
streak right now.
Wow, good for them, man. That's how you do it. I give them a lot of credit with how they're able to do this and to just really pull off that trade for Josh Dobbs. That's huge. And now Dobbs is really putting in his mobility into his game, and I really haven't seen that out of him until this season. I've really seen more of him as a pocket passer, a guy that makes really smart decisions. But seeing what he's doing with his mobility now is just crazy.
Yeah. I mean, so I was thinking about this today, right?
Sure.
Think about how crazy this sounds.
Sure.
We were just talking about how the New York Jets, like, basically have thrown in the towel until Aaron Rodgers comes back, but they're so good on defense that, like, it's keeping them in the playoff hunt. What if they would have gotten Josh Dobbs a month and a half ago? Like,
totally. They might be winning that division.
Yep.
And yeah, it's why, I mean, way back when one of our first things ever we talked about was Josh Dobbs going to Cleveland and how bizarre it was to see the Tennessee Titans let him go. And yeah, it's very interesting the path that guy has taken. That now I think it's really, I mean, at this point moving forward, he is the franchise. He's the franchise quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings, and I'm not even worried about it. That's how good he is.
Yeah, if people don't know, we said it first. We definitely said Josh Dobbs was a guy first.
Yes, we did. We were way back when one of our very first YouTubes is about Josh Dobbs, thinking that he could actually become the franchise quarterback in Cleveland if Deshaun Watson were to go down. That is where we were thinking. We knew that in order for this to happen, Josh Dobbs was getting weird signals about maybe a Lamar Jackson to Tennessee, and that was kind of the route that we were thinking before the entire NFL draft even happened. But it was very bizarre to see Josh Dobbs do well with Tennessee at the end of last season, and all of a sudden for him to get up and pack his bags and leave. That to me didn't make any sense whatsoever. This guy clearly is a starting quarterback in the NFL, and it's why he's shown that at the start of this season in Arizona for an injured Kyler Murray.
Right. Yeah, I agree. That guy, he's a guy. Like, he's doing his thing. One of the top quarterbacks in fantasy right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy. And I mean, now the guy's hurt, and I feel like Tyrod Taylor would have been one of those guys too, but it is cool seeing him back. It's cool seeing Kyler Murray back as well. So yeah, those are two guys that if you can get them in fantasy for now, you can ride with those guys, and you should be able to put up at least 20 fantasy points a week with each of those two.
Yeah. I was just talking to a buddy of mine. He was asking some fantasy questions, and
sure,
it was one of those types of things. I can't remember. Let's see if I can find the messages here.
Yeah.
Going back and forth.
Sure.
He was asking about Herbert and Goff, and then he's like, "Oh, I have Kyler Murray," and I was like, "Dude, you need to trade one of those guys." Like, I was like, I wasn't big on Kyler Murray like at the moment because you never know how a guy's going to come back.
Right.
But I was like, ooh, that is studly. And Kyler Murray showed up, and now Arizona might, who knows, they might do something next year.
Yeah, I think so. And looking at how depleted the NFL is at quarterback, I mean, in all honesty, it's almost 20 teams. It's up there. It's at least 16. It's closer to 20 if you really think about it. Arizona's got Kyler Murray. Again, it's the torn ACL, and we know how that plays into his game. And when you look at guys who I know this guy hasn't torn his ACL, but when I look at the lack of mobility, and then when I look at the lack of mobility of two other guys I kind of compare to him, Mahomes is definitely different. There is definitely a lack of mobility there with him. There's also a change in mobility of Russell Wilson and a slight change in mobility from Josh Allen. And I know I saw Kyler Murray run around, but it looked different. It doesn't look as free flowing as it once did before the ACL was torn. So I think Arizona's they got like maybe a 3 to 4 year window to get what they can out of Kyler Murray, which is ironically the length of his remaining contract.
Wow.
It is.
That's kind of bizarre.
It is. So I think they're going to use him for as much as they have to. And the good thing is they don't have to put more money into quarterback. They can put money at the other positions. They have things going well for them. I mean, they are a team that has a Patriot general manager. They have a Philadelphia defensive coordinator as their head coach. So it feels like they got some good things in place. And everything they were doing at the start of the season with James Conner and Josh Dobbs, it seemed like it had the ability to work. And I look at them. I look at Arizona, and I know they're towards the bottom, but they're not the worst in the NFL. It just feels like they have some pieces to work with, but they obviously have to get better.
Right. Yeah. But it's one of those teams where I'm just like, I don't know about Arizona. Like,
right.
They're in a division where there's not much they can do, but like, I don't know.
Yeah,
like I said,
it's tough.
Like I said earlier, like the NFL is either really bad, and there's only like 5 good teams. So who knows? Anybody can make it at this point.
Yeah, I think now though the scariness of the 49ers having basically two starting edge rushers from Ohio State, literally that played together is pretty scary. That's a real scary team moving forward. Just everything they do on offense, and pretty much anyone can play quarterback for them. So it just always feels like San Francisco is going to be at the top of that division for a significant amount of time moving forward.
Right. I completely agree, especially since they don't have to pay Brock Purdy.
Exactly. That feels so good. And even with them too, I mean, this is a team that knows how to draft 2 quarterbacks better than like anyone. What's to say too, when Brock Purdy comes up for money, they're like, we're not going to spend money on you. We'll move on. We know someone else that can run the offense, and we'll have them play quarterback for the 49ers. That could easily be their formula for as long as Shanahan and Lynch are running that team. Yeah.
I hope my team can get a quarterback at some point.
Yeah, it's possible, but again, I think it's very ironic if people want to take a look at out on my Twitter. I posted it, and this commercial does exist. I want to say it's a Netflix commercial that points out Vikings fans and Packer fans, and it's about Kirk Cousins. And man, I absolutely think right now that is the number one option for the Green Bay Packers is Kirk Cousins at quarterback next season. And you make everything you can out of it. You need a guy who can sling the rock. You're just like these teams like the Jets or I don't know who else, but if you have a capable quarterback, you got some real nice weapons in place on offense that Kirk Cousins can totally make it work.
Right. I mean, I'm hoping we're bad enough that we get a shot at a quarterback. Like, I've been looking at this lately.
Sure.
Like, so Tennessee. So all right, New England's the worst, or Carolina and New England are the worst teams in football. Carolina's not going to give up on Bryce Young after 1 year. Just the way they talk about him, they seem like they're really locked in, and they should be. He was the number 1 pick. That'd be a lot of money to spend just to like bring in another number 1 pick and then have, man, like that'd be a lot of salary cap for 2 guys that are kind of stuck with you for 3 or 4 years, you know?
Yeah.
New England, yeah, they need a quarterback. Tennessee has Will Levis. I don't think they're going to go for a quarterback. Denver's kind of stuck with Russell Wilson.
Yep.
Arizona's kind of stuck with Kyler Murray for a little bit.
Yep.
The Giants have that big contract with Daniel Jones that they just gave him. Like,
yeesh.
They like the teams that are kind of like the Rams, and I'm not really sure about Chicago, but the Rams are probably the only team that's under the Packers right now that like need a quarterback. So I'm kind of hoping the Packers just hold out and draft somebody. Like, or maybe go get Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't know.
True. The thing is though, there is something going on with the Rams that I think they have things in the works that I think they'll be set at quarterback, because there's also the Stetson Bennett thing going on. And Stetson Bennett did kind of play well in the preseason. So granted, he is fighting alcoholism off the field, and we wish him the best with that. But I do think Stetson Bennett has an ability that he could be the future quarterback for the Rams. I don't think they're just going to kick the tires on him. This guy is a national champion, has played in big games. We just need to see him more and see what they got. So I think this is a staff that definitely feels comfortable with Stetson Bennett moving forward. I do agree with you that I think we're at the end of the Matt Stafford line. So this has happened, and there's been talks that this is the last season Stafford will play. So I get it. But I think they're content with what they have, or they might make some slingshot play at Kirk Cousins. We'll see. It's possible. So that's in the works. But I got a name for a quarterback that I think would be cool. I don't know if he would last as long, because I do think we're going to see a lot of quarterbacks go fairly early, go pretty quick fairly early. But maybe a guy like a Bo Nix might be someone that you guys can get. I like Bo Nix. I've liked him even since last season. A guy that's had adversity, has fought back, and is now just slinging it with Oregon. That's a guy I like. I mean, Michael Penix looks phenomenal as well. But I don't know. I mean, I do feel that Caleb Williams is great. I don't know about Drake May, though. I mean, I do wonder, too, that these North Carolina quarterbacks that we've seen lately, the Sam Howells, the Mitch Trubisky's of the world, they're good, but they're not necessarily great. And I don't think I'd like to roll that dice. I mean, we're not seeing the success out of North Carolina that we would like to see to start this career for these guys.
20-team PPR. Holy cow.
Whoa. Let's see. We're going all in on this one, man. Hey, shout out to Josh. Thank you. We appreciate it. We love it. We're going deep into this. So let's dissect this, Triggs. This is awesome.
I'm reading it here.
I know. And looks like the guy is trying to it feels like this guy's pulling off the Richie Sexton deal from a couple decades ago. Like literally trying to trade the franchise, the farm system, to get what he can at quarterback and solve that issue.
What? Well, wait a minute now. Holy cow. How in a 20 team, how did he, like, Reek as in Tyreek, right? How did he get this team?
Yeah, so Lamar, Jonathan Taylor, Aaron Jones. Man, we couldn't even pull that off in our league, Triggs, and we're a 16-team league.
What?
I mean, it seems like this guy's stacked. So
I mean, DJ Moore kind of fell off, but he was a top, like, what, 20 wide receiver draft?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I mean, like I am ironically, I am a guy who's similar to this, who got burned by Jonathan Taylor in round 2 and DJ Moore in round 3. But I do feel better about the DJ Moore pick in round 3 than the Jonathan Taylor and my Tony Pollard pick in round 1. So it happens with DJ Moore. I think we got to roll with those punches. But I still feel that if DJ Moore would have had a great quarterback, which we thought Justin Fields was, I think DJ Moore could have been the number 1 wide receiver in the NFL, if not number 2, right alongside Tyreek Hill. So I think that's something we just got to take and deal and live with.
JT and Aaron Jones,
but how do you get them both?
Yeah, Aaron Jones is starting to get carries. Like I talked to you about this, I think last week.
Yep.
And Jonathan Taylor's taken all of Zach Moss's carries. Like,
yes.
Wow. So to trade Carr and Kittle for Kelsey, that's I mean, let me go check Kittle really quick, but I would probably say this is easy. Like I would do this every day of the week.
Yeah, I think so too, man. And I'm with you on that. And yeah, I feel your team. I mean, I definitely can see the similarities. My team is similar to yours. I am 3-6, I want to say, or maybe I'm 3-7. I don't know. It's been bad. But I've been there with the JT, the DJ Moore problems, having hit and miss play at tight end. My guy's been Laporta and Jared Goff for the tight end quarterback combo. Ooh. So I see it, but I do love the Christian Kirk play. He's probably the one consistent piece of the Jaguars offense you can actually count on outside of a little bit of Travis Etienne. So I really love the way this roster was designed early in his draft.
So, all right, George Kittle has been coming on lately, but like the entire first 6 weeks, he was basically hit or miss. He had a 3 touchdown game one game, but he only had 3 catches that game and 4 targets.
Sure. Okay.
And the last couple of big games he had Debo Samuel was out, and so they were probably feeding him a lot. Like Kelsey has been Kelsey. Like he's had one bad game, but he's averaging 5.5 points more than Kittle. Like, and Derek Carr is, I mean, you have Lamar Jackson, so.
And also Derek Carr just got knocked out of the last game. So, you can move on from Carr. And, I mean, you're looking at a guy who's been a fan of the Raiders since the day Carr was drafted. I can tell you the last 4 years, you don't have to worry about Derek Carr at quarterback, man. He is, ever since basically the playoff season and he kind of broke his leg, it's just not there. Derek Carr is in a nice position in New Orleans, but as a top-notch fantasy producing quarterback, you don't have to worry about him. There's better pieces out there. Even Sam Howell might be a better option at this point.
So I'm reading some of his comments, and he says I keep losing, which is crazy. Well, Kittle's been hit or miss for I said, the first 6 weeks. Aaron Jones was basically hurt for most of that time. As an Aaron Jones owner, he literally just got back. The bulk of the carries these last couple of games.
Yes.
JT just came back, and he's, like we said, took all of Zach Moss's carries.
And Jonathan Taylor's had 2 really tough matchups, man.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. He's just played against New England and Cleveland and has scored touchdowns against both of them. I don't even know if there's a running back in the NFL who can even say that. So that's impressive, man.
Zach Moss had 1 carry for 2 yards against New England. So, JT is back.
Exactly. And for as short of a data set as we have for Jonathan Taylor, already seeing this between New England and Cleveland, I'm looking at Jonathan Taylor as this guy can be there up there with the Christian McCaffreys of the world. Even a Josh Jacobs now is starting to come on as well. And like you point out with Aaron Jones, this is a guy that's a dual threat. He can catch and he can run. And even Aaron Jones had a great game early this season with almost little run production and was all receiving, and it was still a fantastic fantasy day.
Right. Jonathan Taylor since week 6 has been double-digit fantasy points. So in the last 2 games, he's averaging 20 carries per game. So,
Yeah.
like JT is going to be the man. Lamar, we already talked about how he's ranked number 4 in fantasy. So like you can just set and forget on Lamar Jackson, JT, Aaron Jones, Tyreek, like, and then if you go and get Kelsey, like I honestly don't see how you don't win every game going out.
Yeah. So, and this trade, is he letting? Yeah, he's letting go of Kittle for Kelsey. I would do it.
Yeah.
But the other thing though that I would be considering though, if I were him and I'm getting Kelsey, I mean, again, the health is a concern. I would be ready, and I would definitely have either some kind of insurance policy with some other tight end on your roster, or be ready to pull that trigger on Noah Gray. There's things with Kelsey to me, and I was a Kelsey owner last season, and at the very end of last season, for the last month or so of actual NFL games, he burned me. And I would hate to see that happen to you again. And we're already seeing parts in this season where the Kelsey of last season, of a guy who can score 3 touchdowns a game and 200 yards, that guy's really not there anymore. He can score 100 plus yards and a touchdown, maybe 2, but the insanity of Travis Kelsey of years past, I think, is gone. And that's something where I would think twice about. Like you pointed out, Triggs, about running backs, I think that is going on with tight ends as well.
But I mean, even in that case, though, he's still like nearly 6 points more than George Kittle. So like,
true, yeah, but Kittle was also hurt,
yeah,
for a good amount of the season as well.
Yeah, I agree, but like even his last game, he only had 3 targets. Yeah, he had 20 fantasy points, but like 3 and 4 targets doesn't really. Oh, he has Jared Everett on his bench. I mean,
right.
I'm okay with Everett, but like,
but it's also that's 12 personnel going on with the Chargers, right? So that is not always a Gerald Everett day. That could be a Donald Parham day as well. So it's not necessarily like, yeah, Gerald Everett's going to get you pay dirt on days where you think you have a good tight end matchup. That's the ironic thing about that. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think in order, like, let's be honest, pulling off this trade is straight up Kittle for Kelsey. The Derek Carr part of this really doesn't factor in. It is Kittle for Kelsey. And I think when it comes to this, you really have to dissect the later part of their schedules and how you think they are going into the postseason, right? So going into the postseason, I think we're going to start to see Kansas City regress to the mean, and we are going to see Kansas City have to fight for that number 1 seed. I think San Francisco, if they get a Detroit stumble, I don't know if they go toe-to-toe, with Philadelphia, but San Francisco is going to have a much easier path to get the 1 seed in the NFC than the AFC. So that's where I think that you're going to possibly see benchings of certain starters for the 49ers, where you don't have to worry about that with Kelsey. So if that's the case, I would feel better about going with Kelsey over Kittle.
Right. And the big thing that I see with Kelsey is like George Kittle has so many there's so many mouths to feed. Like you have Debo, you have Brandon Ayuk, you have Christian McCaffrey. Kansas City is Patrick Mahomes to Travis Kelsey and Taylor Swift. That's it.
Yeah, and exactly. And I'll put it on this too. In any of the last 3 games of the Kansas City Chiefs, do they encounter the Chargers or the Raiders?
They encounter both of them. I'm looking at their schedule.
That's a game changer, because Kelsey balls out against those 2 teams more than like anyone else. So, and again, with Kansas City having to fight their way more for the postseason, and plus, what if my Raiders actually beat the Chiefs in a few weeks? Now that that final meeting at the end of the season means more. They're going to play harder for it. So that even shapes up even better for Travis Kelce, having good matchups against them and pretty much always having crazy matchups against the Chargers. So I think that's something you got to look at. You have to look at how your team is going to perform in the postseason of your fantasy football matchups. And that's huge, man. The fact that he has both the Raiders and the Chargers, I think that's a game changer. I think that really tips the scale heavily in Travis Kelce's favor.
Right. And it's kind of funny that you say that because Kelce had a 12 reception, 179 yards, and a touchdown against the Chargers like 3 weeks ago.
Exactly. So I know they're licking their chops. They're ready to play the Chargers again. And the Chargers, and I mean, when it comes to the AFC, the Chargers and the Miami Dolphins have no secondary at all, like none. So you can throw on those guys as much as you want with as rough of a quarterback situation as you have, you're going to get it done. So, yeah, I mean, being my Raiders that we play Miami next week, I know they're coming off by and they're fast, but man, seeing these teams that have just awful secondaries and you got guys in fantasy, especially like the Niners just playing against Jacksonville, who you've pointed out, Triggs, that has a terrible secondary. Well, it showed.
Right. The one thing I would say about Everett is like, if you can go get my boy Trey McBride, like with the Cardinals, this dude is lighting it up. Like he just had 11 catches for 131. He was in
Is Ertz out?
I have no idea, but he was in my recent video of like guys just blowing up. Let me go check. I'll go see if Ertz is up. Actually, yes, Ertz is on IR.
Well, that'll do it. Yeah, because Ertz is a solid guy, but and Ertz to us is probably a top 10 tight end if he's playing. But with him not out there, Trey McBride, now you got Kyler Murray. Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, going back to Josh's question about DJ Moore bouncing back once Field is back, I do. I think there was a chemistry that was starting to develop between him and Fields before he got out. And yeah, I know we've all seen the social media posting about DJ Moore against the Buccaneers when they played earlier this season and how he was complaining about not being a part of this offense as much as he should be. But there was some chemistry going on there. And Justin Fields does have an added dimension that the current quarterback for the Bears just doesn't have. He just doesn't. I saw the Bears and the Raiders in person, and I could feel it in that game, even though the Bears won. There's just something different about Justin Fields athletically. And like looking at the Cardinals, we see it out of Kyler Murray. Justin Fields brings that as well. So I'm absolutely with you. Maybe it takes a little bit. The Justin Fields injury is his thumb of his throwing hand, correct?
I can't remember, to be honest.
Yeah. But if that's the case,
I hate the Bears.
It's tough, man. I know you do. I know. But that's kind of how it is. And I mean, it's ironic because I actually just traveled through Chicago over the weekend. And it's ironic seeing Justin Fields' face on all these Dunkin' Donuts billboards and thinking that pretty much next season, I don't think he's even the quarterback. I think it's Caleb Williams. And I firmly believe that. I think that's why this team is not I don't know what the contract is, but DJ Moore to me has to be the future of this franchise. And it's why, I think DJ Moore can bounce back this season, but I even think next season DJ Moore can bounce back even better with having Caleb Williams at quarterback. And I know this might not sound correct, but I don't think it's as serious as people really are making it out to be. I think Jim Harbaugh is the coach of the Chicago Bears next season. I think Harbaugh plus Caleb Williams plus DJ Moore, I think that's a game changer, and that really brings Chicago back to relevancy.
Nice. So, all right, this is how I break this down. So if we take out the 230-yard, 3-touchdown game from Moore in Week 5 against Washington, where he had 49 fantasy points. And basically nobody was starting him.
I did.
So if you take that game out from Week 2 to Week 7, he was averaging about 16 points a game. So, like,
Jeez.
I would definitely say DJ Moore is ready for that action when Fields comes back. And, I mean, even looking at him with Tyler Bagent, he just had 9 targets. I mean, he only had 5 catches for 58 yards, but he did have a double-digit fantasy points against Carolina. So,
sure.
Definitely, I mean, they're going to be indoors the next 2 games, Detroit, Minnesota, and then they have the bye. So, like, there's going to be some tossing going on. And they have, no running game at all.
So when it comes to that run game that you're talking about, I take it Roschon Johnson's still banged up. Isn't Deontay Foreman back, but is he just not producing?
Not producing. Khalil Herbert's back too, and he's just a dude.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is with that Bears team, like there's just no respect for that offense now. I mean, if you're playing the Bears, shut down DJ Moore, shut down Cole Kmet. That's it. Game's over.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know.
I mean,
apparently the Bears didn't activate Herbert, so I don't really know why, even though he was designated for return.
Right. I mean, it's kind of similar to what we were dealing with the Raiders against the Jets yesterday. The thing, and actually this became public, the Raiders didn't really care as much about Garrett Wilson. They really cared more about stopping Breece Hall. And that speaks volumes to especially what you're talking about, how with Aaron Rodgers being at quarterback, that changes things, man. Like, that's what it takes. And when you look at these teams that are so bad at quarterback, they basically have 2 options. One is a running back. One's a number 1 wideout. If you can stop one of them, they're pretty much done. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's the Bears are just the Bears.
They are. But the thing is, they have youth, and they have a lot of cap, and they have a GM. They have a GM that's new. They also have a new president of the team who used to be the commissioner for the Big Ten Conference. And I like the direction they're moving in. The only thing is the coaching staff. And we've seen, I mean, we don't know fully what's going on with that coaching staff, but I can pretty much guess what is going on based off of what's been happening with the defensive coordinator, and I think it was the running backs coach. My guess is they were pulling this shenanigans together, and that's why they're gone. But if that's the case, then I put that, unfortunately, on the head coach because, like people are saying about Harbaugh being responsible for his players in Michigan, your head coach is responsible for the actions of his other coaches. And that's why I think Eberflus needs to take the fall for this as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, possibly. Or they could be like the Cubs and they could just steal the Packers coach. Who knows?
Yeah, that's cold-blooded, man. Yeah, I saw the introduction of that today, and it felt weird. It just doesn't feel right, man. That's it just does not look right. I mean, I still remember his press conference when he was becoming the head coach of the Milwaukee Brewers, and there was more positivity about it. It felt natural. Just seeing him in a Cubs uniform looks weird, man. It doesn't feel right. The conference wasn't as natural as it was when he was with the Brewers. I don't get it, man. I think it's a sellout. It's going for that money, and I mean, I don't blame a guy for getting more money, but when we're talking a difference between 15 million and 40 million, I don't get it. I just don't see it. So
that's the only credit I give the guy. It's the only credit I give him. I understand he's now the highest paid coach, and I'll give him that, or manager, sorry. But the dude he
screwed his legacy.
Yeah, he has a playground named after him in his city. Come on, dude.
Yeah, it's bad, man. I just don't like it. And I mean, there's not a single person here that's going to say anything badly about what he's built. A few weird coaching things here and there, but you can say that about anyone. But the way that he really has brought back Milwaukee as a top-notch franchise in the national, well, pretty much all of baseball, I give him a lot of credit for. So he could definitely do it with Chicago, but it just feels like a lot of weird, bad karma is kind of what I feel.
Yeah, I hope Chicago falls on their face.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. And also when it comes to baseball, that's never, I mean, obviously it's what led me away from being a Packer fan and becoming a Raider, but I've never liked the North Side. I mean, I did want them to win that World Series back when, but other than that, I'm not a fan of the Cubs or their fan base. I like the Southsiders. I like the White Sox fan base. I like that. I like the Bears culture. I like Detroit and I like Milwaukee when it comes to baseball. And those three are kind of, to me, very similar. I think there's something cool about them. But yeah, going with the Cubs, man, I just don't get it. I just feel like they feel more uppity and more like conscious about it than the other five teams in the NL Central.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about it, Mr. Metrics? You got any cool things you wanna send out? Anything we missed?
I guess when it comes to tonight's game, real quick. So we got the Broncos and the Bills going. So a little shout out what I got going on for this game in terms of underdog fantasy. Did some up downs on this game, and this was a game that people were talking a lot about Dalton Kincaid, and it looks like he's not really having as much production. The Broncos defense is very interesting. I mean, you and I actually early in the season called this a not good defense, but I did some analytics on this game beforehand. And when it comes to stopping the slot and stopping the outside receivers, they're actually middle of the pack in the NFL at this. So the Broncos have some stuff going on defensively all of a sudden. Dalton Kincaid and the teams against the Broncos are supposed to do well at tight end. Kincaid only has 13 yards against Denver. So shout out to the Broncos defense, really stepping up. When it comes to what I was looking at against them, I did go with Dalton Kincaid. And then I'm looking at a touchdown for Gabe Davis. I feel that if there is a little bit more focus on Kincaid and focus on Stephon Diggs, that this is a Gabe Davis way for Josh Allen to score. So maybe it's Gabe Davis, maybe it's Khalil Shakir. That's kind of what I'm looking at there. So I went with those two guys on Buffalo. Also, when it comes to Denver's side of the defense, wait, let me get this right. Denver is actually one of the teams more susceptible for giving up yards to receiving for running backs. So, and this was a spicy bet as well. So you get a little more payout on it. I went Latavius Murray higher, basically 2 receptions. So higher than 1.5. He right now has 1 reception in the game. And there is still a lot of football left to be played. We're only halfway through the second quarter. So I feel like that is going to hit. On the Broncos side, I only went with 2 guys. So I went with the receptions as well. Buffalo is a team that also gives up points to receiving running backs. So 1.5 receptions on Jaleel McLaughlin. I know he's kind of back there on the depth chart, but we'll see if that happens. Maybe not. But also Will Lutz, just need 2 field goals out of him. He already has 1. So that's it. We're looking at how those guys pay out, but we'll see. Yeah. So a lot of good stuff there, but that's what I got between the Broncos and Bills for tonight.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's what we got. So what video game you looking at for tonight, Triggs?
Oh, I don't know. Let's do. Oh, all right. That's what we'll go with. Let's give her a flip ski.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll pop that up.
There we go.
my presentation.
Yup.
Boom.
Boom.
Oh,
we're going wrestling.
yeah. Look at that attitude of N64.
Is that The Rock?
That is. And Steve
Oh
Austin.
my. And Steve Austin. How about that? That is pretty cool. N64, man.
Yeah.
It is, but that looks pretty cool. That's some good stuff there. I always love seeing the N64 games, and for me, that is probably that's the console of our generation. The N64 is just stupid iconic. Has a ton of pop culture in it. Those cartridges are just so satisfying. Something about an N64 cartridge is just the best. It's better than any other thing that you plug into a video game system. The N64 has a beat. It has that thin little piece of cardboard in the middle of it. You can't beat it.
I don't know. I was always I like Dreamcast like games. I don't know why, but I think it was more so like the little like memory pack that you could put in and you could play games on the memory pack. I was insane.
Oh, wow. That is interesting. Yeah, I do remember hearing some stuff back with the Dreamcast that was supposed to be like a more revolutionary kind of game system. I know some things didn't go quite to plan, but there was always talks that the Dreamcast was trying out some things that have never really been done before. So that's kind of cool. That's some good stuff. But hey, Belt. Yeah, so obviously my Raiders, we're doing good. We got to change at the top of the organization for the better. And for that, sticking with the black theme with my Raiders, got to go Black Panther belts. Just seeing everything that's going on. We're the first ever NFL team to have a black president, black GM, and black head coach. I give a shout out to Mark Davis and everyone that's part of the Raiders for making that happen. And it's pretty cool. And I know Davis said he wants to hire the best people regardless of color of their skin. So I give him credit for that. But I just love the character we have. And NBC actually pointed out the journey that Antonio Pierce has taken to become the head coach. And I even like, too, that before the Raiders, before he became an assistant with them, he was actually with Herm Edwards in Arizona State before Herm had some NCAA violation, which everyone has these days. But he was and that was a big thing, that Herm Edwards was having a significant amount of former Hall of Fame players on his coaching staff, and Antonio Pierce was one of them. So shout out to Herm Edwards and shout out to everyone at the top of the Raiders right now making this happen.
Nice. I did not know that. Drop some knowledge.
Pretty cool. Yeah, that's no debate. There we go. So boom. I think that's it. That's it for us tonight. Pretty good show we got. Covered a lot of good things. Trying to change things up, mix it up a little bit here. But that's everything that you can see with us. And boom, we're right back here. Same time tomorrow, guys, 7:00 Central. Mondays, Tuesdays on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter X. So you'll check us out there, and we'll see you next time, guys.